We're now doing a remote witness who got called to a meeting in the afternoon with the mayor's office, and that's Dr. Lee Bowes, who's the CEO of America Works, which works in many, many states doing welfare to work programs. They're one of the largest back to work vendors in New York City. Over the last time since 1987 or so, they've helped about 500,000 people find jobs. And I think that Dr. Bowes is particularly going to talk today about some of their work on helping people on the SNAP program find employment. So are you there, Dr. Bowes? Can you hear us?
Hello?
Okay. Can you hear us, Dr. Bowes?
I can't hear you. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. I just introduced you. We have an audience of about 20 people here, and we would love to hear from you. You're on a mic, and so this is all be audio recorded and be part of the public record.
Thank you very much. I'm very sorry I couldn't attend in person, but I have 2 New York Times reporters coming to my office, and it happened last minute, and as any of you who are involved in this business know, that kind of makes me nervous and also jumps priorities. So thank you for tolerating me to do this over the telephone. America Works was founded in 1984 to help welfare recipients get jobs. It was the first for-profit company dedicated to this effort. There are 4 principles which we are passionate about. First, people on welfare can and want to go to work. Prior to welfare reform, the assumption was that people needed to stay home. Second, work, not training, is central to that effort. For far too many years, welfare recipients were sent to training programs that never led to employment. Third, companies should be paid for performance. Only when a person gets and keeps a job should we be paid. Fourth, getting a job is easy, but keeping the job is hard. So we developed a follow-along service for the first 6 months to provide counseling, coaching on the job, interventions for supports where necessary, and a host of financial incentives. At first, we ran modest-sized programs around the country in different cities in the 1980s with our program design, and it did attract a lot of media attention and the interest of politicians. Newt Gingrich was a very early supporter, as was the DLC, which then was headed by Bill Clinton. America Works got involved in providing information to both the House and the White House during the implementation of the 1996 TANF law. Since the start of America Works 31 years ago, we've placed over 500,000 people into jobs. We have expanded the services we provide to other populations, included our ex-offenders, veterans, the homeless, people with disabilities who are on SSI, children aging out of foster care, food stamp recipients, and non-custodial parents who are unemployed and cannot pay child support. Most of the people that we work with also receive food stamps. In New York City, America Works has been able to work with people who have food stamp-only cases. First, this was done on a completely voluntary basis. As people came to us, we could enroll them in our program and place them into jobs in the contract we have with the Human Resources Administration, HRA. We did this from 1998 until November 2012. In particular, we recruited people from prisons and veterans. As you know, veterans, many of them, while they're serving our country, get on food stamps because their rate of pay is so low. So from January 2013 until March of 2014, we worked with mandated referrals. So the City of New York implemented a program which required people who were on food stamps to go look for work, much like the welfare program did. In March of 2014, the new de Blasio administration ceased allowing food stamp referrals to receive employment services. Although we advocated continuing to serve them on a voluntary basis, especially for returning offenders and veterans, homeless veterans and disabled veterans, there wasn't any receptivity to the continuation of that. So in effect now, when somebody has a food stamp case, we're not allowed to work with them. America Works, through its contract with HRA, was the subject of two audits by the federal government. Specifically, the Department of Agriculture came to audit the food stamp program. I think they were particularly concerned about the mandated food stamp program. During the audit of America Works, we made sure there were a number of people who gave testimonial to the fact that they wanted to go to work and that the employment services were vital to them. Although the auditors felt the program was punitive, the people we placed insisted that no one who can go to work wants to sit home collecting food stamps. They welcomed this opportunity to find work. And although in New York City there are a number of employment agencies that we have funded through the Department of Labor programs, the HRA programs, which is the social service agency in New York City, really address their support service needs because we actually went out and set up appointments at companies for them. We found them the clothing they needed. We got them all kinds of other support services. We gave them Metro cards, bonuses, transportation, gift cards, all these incentives. And that was very helpful in preparing them for work. And you have to understand that many of these people with food stamp-only cases were very proud and did not want to, even though they would qualify for other social service benefits, they wanted to exit the system as quickly as possible. From 2010 to 2013, America Works placed and retained 2,851 food stamp recipients into jobs with 6 months of retention. Due to the ability to place food stamp recipients into jobs, America Works was able to mount a controlled experimental study on ex-offenders who were recently released from prison. The study showed that work led to a 20% reduction in recidivism to crime and prison for nonviolent offenders. The savings to the public for these modest program costs are estimated to be over $200,000 for each person we served. These results are significant with major policy implications for states who are looking to substantially reduce the cost of prison and crime, as well as the cost of prison to the federal government. In closing, I would argue strongly that food stamp employment programs, which were in the original welfare reform legislation, there was always a requirement that the food stamp programs phase in over the course of the first number of years so that there was a mandated employment program, and those should be continued. Although it was required under the law, and we have offices in different states around the country, the only location where we found substantial contracts for the food stamp population was in New York City. Most of our other geographical areas, when we asked them about this, said they had used the food stamp employment funds to offset staff and existing government costs at the state and local levels. With little or no federal oversight from the Department of Agriculture, too little has been done, and it's our hope that the new National Food Stamp Demonstration and Employment Programs will show real promise of getting food stamp recipients to seek employment.
Thank you, Dr. Bose. We appreciate it. Am I talking loud enough that you can hear us? Because we'll probably have some questions.
Okay.
I think it's very unfortunate that New York was not one of the 10 pilot states selected, because I know the city and the state had collectively applied for one of the pilot grants, and it's unfortunate. But I think you're right that there will be learning from those based on the evaluation, and that'll be good to know. I certainly have appreciated the work. My first question is, you know that when people go to work, they also can attach themselves, when they're able to work, they can attach themselves to a significant amount of other federal and state benefits. And I think, if I'm correct, you've used that also as a tool to show people side by side how much better off they would be with receiving the EITC federally and the state EITC and maintaining some level of SNAP benefits. Has that been a helpful tool with working with populations?
Yes, it is. We always do the cost-benefit analysis. It's very easy if it's a food stamp-only case. But, so one of the things that we've seen is a hesitancy from employers, and this isn't just in New York, but in our other offices as well, to provide enough hours so that people can actually leave some of these benefit programs, there's an increasing dependence on them because companies tell us that they don't want to have 30 hours a week of work because then they're required to spend an additional $5,000 to $9,000 for health care benefits under the Obamacare law. So we're seeing fewer companies providing those benefits and fewer companies providing those additional hours. So there's more dependency on some of these programs like EITC and food stamps and other transitional benefits.
Other questions?
Go ahead.
Thank you very much for your testimony. I wanted to ask a little bit about the quality of the jobs that America Works helps clients to get into, because I think that
by
issue
quality,
of...
you mean hourly rates and income?
I mean hourly rates, the amount of hours, and the types of benefits that the companies provide, because we just heard a testimony from a person beforehand, I'm not sure if you were able to hear it, about a person who would like to be able to increase her hours so that she could be able to pay rent or not have to trade off paying for food or paying for rent. Can you talk a little bit about the track record of America Works? What are some of the exciting solutions that America Works can promote that have to do with making sure that families that they are assisting are actually getting not just simply employed, but employed with a type of job that has a good amount of hours and good pay and good benefits?
Well, that's what we work to do all the time. We can't affect the minimum wage or the hours that employers give our people. However, we only get paid if someone gets a job and stays on the job. And my staff would tell you, no matter where we're located, that it doesn't pay for them to put someone into a job that they can't maintain and won't maintain. So we are always looking for those employers who pay more, and our hourly rates are right now about $11.50 an hour, which is above minimum wage. Although in San Francisco we're placing ex-offenders into jobs that pay $15 an hour because they have a mandated minimum wage there that's much higher than the rest of the country. And we're finding that increasingly cities are creating higher minimum wages than states or federal governments, which is something I don't believe has really been done until the past year or two. So we have most of the money that we make is on the retention of someone for 6 months. So there's a disincentive for us to place them into jobs that are not paying full-time and good wages and have a good corporate culture. So constantly I hear from staff. I just had a meeting with seniors, what we call corporate reps. They're our case managers. They were talking about how they refuse to allow the sales staff to place them at, these dollar stores around the country because they said the wages aren't good, the hours aren't good, so the staff won't place them there, even though the company is constantly coming and asking. Where a company like Fresh Direct is making a commitment to 40 hours plus benefits, and we now have hundreds of people working there. Right now, it's really a job seekers market. We have a lot more selection because companies have lots of openings and they're fighting for employees.
Thank you.
I want to follow up a little bit on that, Lee. This is Robert Dorr, and thank you for your testimony and for your work over these many years in helping people get employment and also move up the economic ladder. This hours issue really does concern me. I heard a lot about it down in the southeast earlier a couple weeks ago. Is this a new thing where employers of a lot of entry-level employees are limiting hours at below 30?
I have seen it as a new thing, having done this for 31 years. Unfortunately, I've only done the same thing for 31 years. So I see a bigger percentage. If I go 10 years ago to America Works, number of placements, 40-plus hours, was about 95%. And right now, companies are, committing to give us 30 to 40 hours, And then what we're finding as people start the jobs, they're starting them at 5 hours, 7 hours, saying they have to test them out and move up. I mean, the argument in the past was always the companies didn't want more employees because it's more headache to have more part-time employees than to have good full-time employees. But I do think there's a financial disincentive for companies to make the commitment for full-time when they have to bear this additional cost. Whether it's, how that gets played out nationally, because I'm not seeing it in the initial studies, but we're seeing it more this year. And I think the way the Obamacare law went into effect, we're seeing it a lot in Wisconsin, was that this was the year where penalties would be levied.
Yeah.
So really until 2015, I'm not sure the companies took it that seriously, so we didn't see it as a major problem.
Right.
Again, I just talked with staff about this yesterday, and that's what they were telling me they're hearing from the companies.
Right. So and then the other question is if you had someone who was a food stamp only recipient and had declined to seek TANF assistance, was able-bodied, maybe have some children in the household, and you were able to offer them the help in finding a job, wouldn't you be able to help them increase their income and have greater economic security or less poverty in their household?
Absolutely. I mean, the able-bodied people who are on the food stamp program, I have never met one who doesn't want to go to work. I mean, I know I saw some TV show where some dude who was surfing, was taking advantage of food stamps, but that's not what I saw.
Right, so you have you've built up this entire enterprise, this entire program out of the TANF, and it's sitting there.
We were able to find them really good jobs and opportunities.
Right, it's sitting there ready and able and willing to help people, but isn't being utilized to the full extent to help the most people it could.
That's correct. I totally concur. Well, you ran the program.
Well, one last question, Lee.
What did it? And I never fully understood, number one, why the Department of Agriculture did what they did, because we were just, they came to see us. We were always selected because we had the largest food stamp program. I also didn't understand why the new administration just cut it out. They never gave us an explanation.
Right. So now let me ask a question about requirements. One of the things that comes up a lot is that the SNAP is an entitlement, and it's the last entitlement, and we should protect its entitlement status and not impose firm work requirements that will be unforgiving if someone can't find a job. And now, but I had a sense that in programs that help people get jobs that it's not all that cut and dry. There could be an engagement requirement. There could be an expectation or a required referral. There could be a process whereby applicants or recipients of a benefit could be expected or encouraged to participate in a program like yours. But if a job can't be found, then that wouldn't necessarily lead to a case closure or a sanction, but there would be at least some expectation that we're trying to move toward employment. Can you see
That's absolutely correct. And, there are all kinds of appeal processes, and we see very few cases actually closed for not trying, because even when we know someone wasn't attempting, like in Wisconsin, we've had this discussion with the secretary, the way in which the appeal process works, despite whatever is on kind of the books, there's always a way for people to keep their benefits going. And so the intent of, in my experience, intent was always that if you're not at least trying, you're going to lose that benefit. I haven't seen very many cases in which that happened, but having the carrot of saying you've got to get out there, you've got to start looking, does engage a huge percentage of people who would just stay home and not look for work. In one of our offices in New York, the commissioner has a new quote-unquote policy where no one has to kind of commit to look for work. They get exempted from it. I had taken a tour. This is in Far Rockaway, Queens, about 6 weeks ago. Went to the office, and there was no one in the office looking for work. I was like, what the heck is going on? And they said, well, this is an experiment. You know, we were selected to be this particular office to allow people to not have to come into the office. And so what we're seeing is there's a group of people who will stay home. They're discouraged. They don't think anyone wants to hire them. But by coming in, they see other people who look like them getting work, and they begin to get motivated. You know, so out of the motivated people, which is maybe a third to 50%, you have another group of people that question whether or not they really want to go to work. And by having them just show up, they get excited, they get interested. And that may be an additional 20% of people. And so I was curious how that's affected our performance, and of course it has affected our performance.
Thank you.
Thank you. Do you have more questions?
No.
Lee, appreciate very much and understand your inability to join us today. Good luck with the Times. Thanks for the written testimony. Melissa sent it on to me, and we'll make it part of the public record.
Thank you so much, and I wish you all the best, because this is a very important issue, especially right now.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.